I just simply don't know about this one, guys. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and today we're breaking down an article that I've been sent a couple of times regarding some things the Red Sox could be doing this offseason. We're going to break it down and take a look at whether or not it's something we should be paying attention to. But before we get into that, just a heads up, again, like always, we are currently raising money for Movember, a foundation dedicated to bringing men's mental and physical health services to men around the globe. If you want to help us reach our donation goal of $1,500, all you got to do is click the link in the description or the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so the article we are talking about today has sort of quietly been making its way around Red Sox Nation. Like I said, I've been sent this article by multiples of you guys right here on this channel. I've seen it pop up a couple of times in the comment section. Probably most notably, it sparked a bit of a debate on Red Sox Twitter. The article we're talking about is an article, or a blog, I should say, put out by one Dean Sirocco of the Skipper's View blog site. And the reason it's getting so much attention right now, because if it's true, the Red Sox may have one of the best off seasons in recent memory. Within this article or blog, Dean originally said that he had a source within Red Sox circles that indicated that the Red Sox floated the idea of a super team to Juan Soto. However, that exact phrasing isn't found in his blog anymore. Now, immediately, that should raise a bit of red flags when it comes to the legitimacy of the source surrounding this article, but I'm not going to immediately write it off. So let's take a look at what Dean is talking about with the idea of a Juan Soto super team. Apparently, according to his source within this article, the Red Sox have a plan of executing this dream team proposal. According to him, or according to his source, it starts with signing Soto. Then the Red Sox trade Casas for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. After that, they trade for Garrett Crochet. Then they sign either Fried or Snell and meet with Roki Sasaki. I mean, yeah, right? The whole super team idea isn't wrong here. Again, if the Red Sox were able to execute this, they would have one of the best off seasons in recent memory. It would pretty immediately put them in the upper echelon of MLB teams. This would be a immediate World Series contender here in Boston, but I have a couple of issues with this sort of proposal. The first is that this hasn't been confirmed by anybody else, and immediately that makes me a little bit nervous as to this source's legitimacy, and the reason for that is because think about it. If the Red Sox had gone to Juan Soto and proposed something like this would probably be pretty major news. No, Red Sox beat reporters would probably be all over this idea, especially with the announcement that they're going to trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But on top of that, wouldn't national reporters also probably be all over this as well, right? This would be pretty big news. I know that specific things going on in meetings aren't usually publicly shared knowledge, but if this source was able to tell Dean, wouldn't someone else be able to tell one of those guys? I pretty immediately, regardless of who puts out this news, want it to be backed up by someone else, right? So the reason why we didn't talk about Juan Soto until Jeff Passan put out his news that they were meeting with him, it's because you need to have those reliable, truly proven reports behind something that's being said, especially when it's something like this, because this is a pretty big claim to make. Again, this would be headline news everywhere for anyone who was able to get the inside scoop on this. So the fact that this hasn't been backed up at all, right off the bat, immediately makes me a little bit cautious in terms of whether or not to believe this. The second reason I have a little bit of an issue with this idea of pitching this to Juan Soto specifically is because it's just not a very good discussion to have with someone you're trying to woo in free agency, because it sets really, really high expectations. Sure, it may sound good in the moment to Juan Soto, and it maybe sway him to the Red Sox over somebody else. This promise of this so-called super team here in Boston probably sounds like a pretty good idea, right? Especially if Juan Soto is at the helm of it, but it also sets those unrealistic expectations. So the second a guy like Crochet ends up getting traded to, let's say, LA or somewhere, all of a sudden the legitimacy you have behind this claim goes out the window. Even if you were able to sign Snell and, let's say, in some world able to trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you did not execute on the plan that you were looking for or promised this free agent. All of a sudden you lose all credibility, which is the last thing you want to do in a negotiation with a free agent, especially of Juan Soto's caliber. Pretty immediately, you become the team that kind of lied to him because you couldn't get what you promised done, and that immediately probably bumps you down in terms of the desired destination for a guy like Juan Soto. So I just don't see the Red Sox going in there and being like, hey, Soto, here's everything about our organization. Oh, and by the way, this is exactly what we are going to execute this offseason. Now, maybe they overarchingly said, look, this is what we're trying to acquire. We're going to acquire a frontline starting pitcher and a right-handed bat, and it was sort of inferred that these guys were Crochet, Sneller, Fried, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but maybe not explicitly said. Maybe that's a different conversation, but I just don't think the Red Sox are kind of dumb enough to go in there and lay out their offseason plans for one of the bigger free agents in the industry, and two, for one of the biggest free agents in the history of baseball. It just, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense when it comes to the negotiation part of this. But the third reason is just simply logistics here. Even if the Red Sox are able to get done a third of what was proposed in this article, they had a really good offseason. To do all of this is just too many moving parts. I mean, everything would have to land perfectly for the Red Sox to be able to get this done. They're not even favorites to land Juan Soto, and that's the first step in this plan, right? This is a whole lot of things that would have to go perfectly right for the Red Sox to even remotely get this done on a legitimate level. Now, even breaking it down further, the one thing that really gives me pause here is the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. trade. I'll say this, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is clearly right now the better player than Tristan Casas. I love Tristan. I'm a huge Tristan Casas fan, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has proven he could be a top-of-the-league bat over the course of 162 games multiple times throughout his career. He's about the same age as Casas and has much more of a storied history in Major League Baseball. He fits this team a little bit better when we're talking just simply left-right matchups. This is a guy who could be the face of the Red Sox for years to come. I would love Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on this team. The problem is with this trade specifically is two things. One, you would have to give up Tristan Casas for 1 year of control for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The Red Sox would kind of have to win a World Series in 2025 or this trade just simply wouldn't be worth it. You would lose 4 years of control over Tristan for 1 year of control over Vladdy. So right off the bat, unless you're expecting to extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr., which by the way would probably end up meaning the Red Sox spending $1 billion between Soto and Vladdy and $1.3 billion between Vladdy, Soto, and Rafael Devers, which to me doesn't sound exactly like a thing the Boston Red Sox would be willing to do. But two here, why would the Blue Jays give him up? I understand they haven't been able to get a contract or extension done with Vladdy, and I understand this would probably be the right time to trade him and get the highest package, especially coming off the season he just had, but they're also in on Juan Soto. They are willing to spend that kind of money. It really wouldn't make a ton of sense to go out and trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. before Juan Soto has made his decision, because if he ends up choosing the Blue Jays and then they trade away Juan Soto, they didn't really do anything to improve their team. I mean, obviously, Juan Soto is much better than Vladdy overall when it comes to the plate, but they just got rid of their superstar face of the franchise to bring in Juan Soto. To me, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. And then you get to the money part of this, right? We just talked about the fact that they'd probably have to spend $1 billion to make this dream a reality, and that's just two players. Not to mention, Crochet has mentioned he's going to want an extension. Now, that's something that really shouldn't be on the forefront if you trade for Crochet, but at the same time, too, you'd probably be giving up a pretty big package for 2 years of Crochet there. Then you add in Snell and or Fried's contract, which will probably be at the bare minimum in the high $100 million range, and Sasaki, who really doesn't cost a lot, but just sort of that cherry on top of the giant cash pile cake that the Red Sox would have to give out here. And I don't see a world in which the Red Sox give out $1 billion this offseason. This would just be a complete 180, wouldn't it? It would just be totally different than everything we have seen from this Red Sox camp over the last couple of years. Everyone and their mother right now is screaming that things are going to be different for the Red Sox, but I don't think everyone and their mother is saying, oh, things are going to be different, so that means they're going to spend over $1 billion this offseason on 4 or 5 different players. To me, that's where this whole argument argument really falls apart. Now, maybe this is sort of the Red Sox dream scenario, right? It's on their dream board. It's what puts Craig Breslow to bed at night, a happy camper, sure, but there's a difference between, okay, what's your ultimate dream scenario and what's the most realistic scenario here? And I just don't think that this logically feels like the most realistic scenario for the Red Sox heading into 2025. Now, I feel like I'm just sort of ripping Dean apart here and talking about how his source probably isn't legitimate, and that's not exactly my intention. I do think Dean has some connections to the Red Sox, and maybe this is something that's talked about within the circles of the Red Sox front office, but there's such a difference between let's have a conversation about what the dream situation this offseason would be, and B, having an actual conversation about what's realistic for this Red Sox team. Getting Soto and Snell or Fried would automatically be one of the better off seasons the Red Sox have had in a very long time, right? They don't need to do all of this to get this deal done. Now, specifically in this article, Dean mentions this as plan A. And while, yeah, again, this probably is the Red Sox plan A. Let's get the two best Dominican players outside of Rafi on the Boston Red Sox. Let's totally revamp our pitching. Let's go win us a World Series. Yeah, fantastic. But this is also probably every other team in Major League Baseball's plan A, right? At least the teams that are in on Juan Soto probably have a similar dream board to the Boston Red Sox. That's why during these off seasons, we see teams pivot. We see a lot of teams pivot and go for other players. It's why last off season, every single free agent essentially waited until Ohtani and Yamamoto made their decisions because they were most teams' plan A. And once the plan A breaks, all of a sudden, every team's scrambling to figure out their plan B, which is why it's important for the Red Sox to have a plan B, C, and D. I think that's a big thing to take out of this article. There's such a big difference between what the Red Sox want to do in a perfect world and what the Red Sox can actually achieve. And I just simply don't think that this is something the Red Sox can actually achieve. Actually, scratch that. It is something hypothetically the Red Sox could achieve, but there are simply too many moving parts in this conversation for it to actually come to fruition, in my opinion. Now, maybe parts of this feel realistic. I think a trade for Garrett Crochet feels realistic. It's someone that they've been connected to this entire offseason. It's someone who aligns perfectly with what they needed. It's a team that aligns perfectly with what the Red Sox have. That feels like something that's realistic. Blake Snell, Max Fried feels semi-realistic considering we've heard the conversations of the Red Sox wanting a major pitcher and being in on both of these markets. But to add in Juan Soto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Roki Sasaki, who, by the way, we haven't even talked about because I think it's just a foregone conclusion where he's going, despite all the sort of rumors that maybe he's not headed out west. It feels like he's headed out west, right? Despite them saying he's not, he probably is. So automatically your last checkpoint here probably isn't coming to the East Coast. There's so many factors in here that point to probably not for the Red Sox that I just simply can't get behind it. So to answer the ultimate question of this video, is it possible for the Red Sox to create this super team? Yeah, it is possible, but there's such a massive difference between what's possible and what's realistic this offseason. I wouldn't go getting your hopes up with this article. I wouldn't go sitting around and being like, okay, once we get Soto, we're going for Vladdy, we're going for Crochet, we're going for Fried, and then we're going for Roki Sasaki, and we're calling it a day, right? I'm probably not sitting there doing that anytime soon. Now, maybe pieces of this are things that we could start to pay attention to, and things we have been paying attention to over the last couple of weeks, but I wouldn't hang your hat on this proposal, and that's nothing against Dean personally. I'm sure he does have some source within the Red Sox. I'm just looking at this fully logistically, but maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? Is this feasible for Boston? Is this something you expect them to do? And if it is, let me know how you think they could possibly get this done. Let me know all your thoughts on this proposal in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. But don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these videos, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Same episodes are available there. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.